This is really for anybody who wants to influence or persuade. It's not just for salespeople, right?
How do we make more sales? That's the question.
Because what causes a human being to have an objection?
I'm trying to sell you something. I'm trying to help you, honestly.
You have to give them the money before they see over that mountain of what's on the other side of that mountain that you're promising. They have to pay you, so they have that fear of change.
You just stop selling and start helping. What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, folks, I got a real treat for you, especially if you like to make money and you're an entrepreneur or you just want to get out of the rat race. Jeremy Miner's in the house.
Hey, Surreal, I was here right when I started my company. I think we recorded the first version of the virtual portal. It's like 8 hours. Now it's like 60. I don't even know what I was doing 5 years ago. But 5 years ago, I was actually on this show on your podcast. So here we are back. You never invited me back. What happened?
Well, you're always invited.
Well, yeah, that's what you say to everybody.
You're always invited, but you're running around the country and the world for that matter.
Well, just trying to stay out of trouble.
And you've also, built quite a big company too.
Yeah, here and there. Yeah. We're like, for my corporate career, I came from a company that we had like 10,000 employees. So we have 140 at seventh level. To me, we're like little ants. But for a sales training company, we're large. Yeah, for sure.
Large and in charge.
Large and in charge here.
I had a guest last time.
Yeah.
His name is Josh Lyons.
Somebody told me about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah. And he was, I forget what he said about you, but it wasn't, I don't remember what he said, but
was it nice?
I don't know if it was nice or not. It wasn't unnice, but
it wasn't unnice.
I'd have to remember what he said about you. But now that you're here, I almost want to get him and you and Grant and me and Andy and Jeffrey Gittimer. Remember Jeffrey Gittimer?
This sales Bible guy.
That's right.
Yeah.
And get it all in a big room and then figure out, because I think, your style is a little bit different than most.
What's my style?
Your style is more of a spin selling type approach.
Consultative. I would say consultative selling is too surface level. We wouldn't be.
But I
like spin selling. It's an old book, but
you have a unique, distinct teaching.
Well, it's an emotional connection. Tony Robbins says a lot about this. If you go to some of his events, I like to take it a step further. In order to be at the highest level of influence, if you're influencing another human being, you have to really master how to emotionally connect with them. Go there first, where they feel like you understand their needs, their desires, their wants, even their fears, without buying into their story. Right? Because they've already done that, right? Their story could be, I need to think it over. I need to talk with my spouse. I'm too busy now. See, these are just stories, right? That prevent people from change. So NEPQ, the E stands for emotional connection, right? So I love spin selling, but a lot of it is I would say kind of, and I don't want to downplay anybody, but it's a long time ago. That book was written in the 80s, 90s. And it's more about asking logical-based questions to find the needs of the client. The problem is, human beings buy on logic or emotion. Emotion 100% of the time. Brain studies show that, right? I feel like a drink because I'm thirsty. See, every decision you make starts with your feelings, right? Your emotional side of the brain. So that's what NEPQ stands for. It's that emotional connection. So you have to ask questions, but it's not like your prospect is just going to open up to your emotional questions if they know where those lead, right? So a lot of salespeople might say, and this is really for anybody who wants to influence or persuade. It's not just for salespeople, right? We teach all sorts of, people how to influence, right? So if you're asking what are some challenges you're having, John? Does the prospect know where that question leads? More than likely, right? And so unless they're a laydown, more than likely they're going to give you vague, generalized surface level answers because they know where that leads, right? So that's a surface level question. You're going to get a surface level answer. There's not much emotional connection there. Now you can emotionally connect with somebody where they feel like you understand them, but if you judge them, they're still not going to buy. So they have to feel like you care for the consequences of what happens to them if they don't change. That's what NEPQ is.
So what would be, and by the way, folks, seventh level is Jeremy's company. You can find him at jeremyminer.com, I believe.
No. Just follow me on IG or something. Our website is like 7levelhq.com or something like that. But that's just a corporate website. Just have them follow me on Instagram, Jeremy Lee Miner or something.
Jeremy Lee Miner.
Yeah. Just IG, verified account there.
Now, see, again, I see you doing what you teach.
What?
No big deal.
Well, see,
I'm just over here being boring.
Here's the thing.
It's just Jeremy Lee Miner.
Just the boring guy. But here's what you always have to think about. If you're in sales or if you're trying to influence somebody, like is selling something you do to people or is selling something you do for people?
For.
Yeah, for. But most salespeople have been taught you do it to people. You do
quiz me because I'd love to see if
Wouldn't that be the case though?
Yeah, that would be.
Most salespeople, like I got to sell, I got to make money. I'm manipulating them. I'm going to pressure them. I'm going to do whatever it takes because I'm doing it to them. But you have to learn how to do it for them. There's a big difference in that.
Well, if you want to do it right, you would.
If you want to make a lot of sales, you want to do it for because you get to help a lot of people.
Yeah, and this is what it's all about, folks. How do we make more sales? That's the question. How do we make more revenue? At the same time, though, what I tell people is, dude, you just stop selling and start helping, that's why I say you're doing it for somebody. Because if I'm trying to sell you something, I'm trying to help you, honestly.
Yeah.
And if my energy feels that way, I think we connect faster and you trust me more. And it's all about trust, isn't it?
Well, it's all about trust. The question is, how do you build trust? Because, a lot of salespeople, they'll make a cold call like, hi, I'm with XYZ company. The reason why I called was, or like, how are you doing today? And the prospect's like, I'm great. Who is this? Because they're used to what? The same predictable questions that most salespeople ask, right? That doesn't build trust, asking them how their day is, or, who won the game last night, or how's the weather over there in Dallas, like as you get into the conversation, maybe you get into that. But like in the first 30 seconds, so many salespeople try to build rapport. But the problem is our brains recognize what? Patterns. Right? Your brain recognizes patterns. That's just in your DNA. So society recognizes patterns from salespeople. So if you call a lead or whatever, and you're really, really excited like this, do they recognize that pattern? Yes, because they hear lots of salespeople do that. Now, on the flip side, you can't be boring. You can't be like, oh, timid, like, how's it going? You can't do that. And you can't talk like this, like a monotone telemarketer, because they recognize that pattern too. So you got to talk more assertive, like you're the expert. You're calm, you're relaxed in your demeanor, but you're the one that can solve their problems, not the other way around. So it's how you come across, right? It's your
energy.
Tone. It's your tone. It's your energy. Tony Robbins talks a lot about that. Your energy, your body language, because have you ever wondered, why salespeople selling the same thing to the same prospects, we'll get the mic here, salespeople selling the same thing to the same prospects with the same price points using the same script, how do they get completely different results? It's how they're asking the questions. It's how their body language comes across if they're in person. It's how their tonality sounds to the prospect's brain. That determines your results if you're trying to persuade, influence, or sell, for sure.
Well, again, I know we disagree on a few things.
What do we disagree on?
Well, like in my mind, enthusiasm sells.
What does enthusiasm mean?
Certainty, enthusiasm.
Oh, I believe it's certainty. Like right now, I'm talking with certainty, but I wouldn't say I'm like talking like a used car salesperson. No pun intended. We train a lot of used car dealerships that crush it, but I wouldn't say like, being like over enthusiastic.
Well, over enthusiastic, I think, is a little bit too much.
So let's define what enthusiasm is. Maybe we have different interpretations. Because right now I would say I would have certainty as we're talking. We're just talking like back and forth. We're natural, right? We have certainty. Would you say that's how you should talk to a prospect? You're certain like this?
I definitely believe you should be in a position of expertise and in a position to help, not sell.
Yeah.
Because again, if I don't have it broke down like you, because I stopped sales training like 1 million years ago. I just give my opinions now. And I hear a lot of people.
Valid opinions.
But I hear a lot of people about your program that say, that shit works. And I'm like,
well, we do have a little bit under 30,000 testimonials in the last 4 years, so it might work, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, people can make fun of it or they can talk shit about it, but at the end of the day, I've heard people that you don't even know I'm talking to, and they're like, oh yeah, dude, Jeremy Miners, man, I was making like, 80 grand and I took his course and I went to 250 and 300 and 400. I'm like, well, dude, what is he teaching that I don't get?
Connection. That's what I teach. NEPQ, neuro-emotional persuasion questioning.
So what are the questions?
Well, it just depends on the context, right? The first, I want to connect with the prospect. We call those connection questions. Now, why am I asking connection questions? 3 reasons. I want to instantly disarm the prospect where they let their guard down. What's the biggest reason why prospects stay surface level with you? Because their guard's up, right? So how do you prevent the guard from getting up? Or if it is up when you first start talking to them, how do you get the guard down? Because are they going to emotionally open up to you if their guard's up? Like, no, they're not going to, they're going to stay surface level, right? So I want to disarm them to let their guard down. Most of that's how you use your tonality, how you come across, right? Can you be trusted, right? The second thing is I want to take the focus off me, put on them instantly. And the third thing is I want to take them, I'll ask you this question. What's the number one thing that most people think? Like if you're a salesperson talking to a prospect, what do you think the first thing, what comes to the mind of the prospect? Like what do you think when a salesperson first starts talking to you? You probably start thinking, how much is this going to cost? Would you say that?
A lot of people do, yeah.
Yeah, I would say most people would think that. How much is this going to cost? They think that in their brain. They might not say it, but they think that. So that means that their belief system is cost or price. So how do I take them out of that belief system? That's called a frame in human psychology. And then how do I deframe them and reframe them into a new belief system, which is results-based thinking, right? Because if I keep them in price or cost-based thinking, more than likely, what objections am I probably going to get in that conversation or conversations if I'm selling to a company?
Price.
Too expensive. We can't afford it. It's because I'm keeping them in price or cost-based thinking. So how do I take them out and get them into the end result of what you actually sell? Like if you're selling life insurance, that's our biggest industry we train. Okay, huge space for us.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, life insurance. We train tens of thousands in that space. So life insurance, final expense, mortgage protection, commercial insurance, all that stuff. So if I'm selling life insurance, I'm not selling them a policy. I'm not selling them coverage. I'm selling them the results of what that policy or coverage does when one spouse dies and the rest of the family is financially protected. I'm selling the results of what the thing does, not the thing itself. Too many salespeople focus on the thing. Like they focus on the thing, the program, the training, the product, the service. We would train them how to focus on the end result the prospect wants.
People buy results,
sense, right? But most salespeople don't know that, unfortunately. Oh, there's so much more there.
So when they come to you, do you get most of them because you get a lot of people making sounds like decent money. The ones I've talked to, you took them from like, a couple $100,000 to like $400,000. And like, so those aren't average sales guys. They're making a couple $100,000. The average ones are making 60 and 80.
I mean, we train, according to Forbes magazine, there's 163 verticals. We're in 161 of those verticals now. And pretty much all the subcategories. So like home improvement's a big one for us, but home improvement would have like a subcategory to be doors, windows, siding, carpeting, countertops, cabinets, right? HVAC, whatever it is. Home services, garages, my really good friend, Tommy Mello. So it's kind of all over the place. People always ask us like, hey, I'm selling this, this is what always happens. We have this big Facebook group called Sales Revolution. There's like 160-some thousand salespeople in there. And somebody will post a testimonial. I tripled my income or whatever. And the first question that salespeople ask in the comments, what do you sell? Because their way of thinking is, it's not me. It's not nothing I'm doing that's causing me not to make all the money I want. It must be the industry. So if I just jump to this other industry, maybe I can make what this guy or gal's making.
Well, that's some truth to that.
It just depends.
You can be selling the wrong shit.
If I'm selling $5 magazines door to door, am I likely to make multiple 6 figures a year? Unlikely. But I've seen salespeople that sell insurance. I've seen salespeople that sell solar. I've seen salespeople that sell SaaS. I've seen salespeople that sell, jets, cabinets, health benefits, all over the place, all crush it and make way more money. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily the industry. I would say it's the skill level, the lack of skill level. That's the most important part. Wouldn't you?
If you're in the right industry. Because again,
What's the right industry?
Well, I would just say high ticket.
What's high ticket though?
More than 10
Insurance
grand.
is not high ticket.
Sure it is.
Well, they sell a policy to make $900. Is that high ticket?
Well, they sell a policy that they're being advanced a lot of money.
It's $200 a month.
And not only that, I mean, you can sell those. I mean, I've seen people make $50,000 with one policy.
Oh, sure. Yeah. IULs. Yeah. We got.
Yeah, but I think life insurance would be considered high ticket, but not if they went as earned.
I mean, if you get a whole life policy for $400 a month, is that really high ticket?
Not really.
It's low ticket.
Well, the price is, money. But your commission. Oh,
okay. You're saying commission. When I say high ticket, I mean like the price of the thing you're selling. That's kind of what I have in my mind. See, we're speaking the same thing.
Yeah, but there's not many insurance type businesses that pay like so much advanced commission for a $400 premium. You're making
50% to what, 90% or something. Just depends on the plan.
Depends, yeah. If you're rolling with Real Financial, this one company I know about, they pay you like up to 130%.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So it really depends. I would say it's mainly maybe a little bit of the industry, very rare. It's mainly the skill level because a lot of salespeople will jump. They'll be like, "Oh, we'll try sell solar," and they don't sell shit.
Well, solar's one where you better be making some money because you can make money. And 9 times out of 10, I would agree, it is their skills set.
Yeah, like I said, if you're selling $5 magazines. So if you're door to door, probably that's part of you not making a ton of money.
So when you also take into consideration, whether you're calling
light speed pens, I ran out, dude.
Sure, you can.
I like those light speed pens. So they're actually cool. Okay,
I'll get you a whole box.
Keep asking, dude. I love those. They're sure good pens.
It depends on also whether they're coming to you or whether you're going to them. Because a cold call and an inbound, those are two different things. You can get away with two different things, can't you?
It depends on your skill level. Like my first job in college, I sold home security systems door to door, and by second summer, I was making $100,000 a month. That was like 22 years ago. So what did the average person make per month in there? Like, I don't know, $2,000. So definitely a skill level thing, right?
That was, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
How did you disarm them at the door?
I mean, so there's always disarming techniques that are a little bit different compared to what you're actually selling. Like if I'm selling door to door, what is, so here's, I'm going to take you this back. So I'll give you a psychologist perspective. Okay. So I went to school to human behavior to become a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I chose the psychologist route because psychiatry, you got to go to medical school for 8 years and hated school. And so you're taught that every patient, every human, which would be a prospect too, has belief systems or a current way of thinking. We call that a frame. Okay. So everybody write down frame. Okay. And I'll tell you what Tony Robbins does with this. It's really brilliant. And everybody has this belief system. It's called a frame. So how do I take them out of this belief system? Their belief systems, child psychology, are pretty much formed from the ages of 4 to 13. Okay. And pretty much cemented by the time you're 18, your worldview, your belief systems based on who your parents were that raised you, maybe based on your church, your religious beliefs, based on your cousins you hung out with, could be now who you follow on TikTok as a kid, which is freaking scary. Okay. But your belief systems, and what's a belief system that most people have about salespeople in society? Scummy, right? So you got to realize when your prospects first start talking to you, that's their belief system, right? So how do I take them out of what we call that frame? That's called a deframe. And then how do I reframe them? That's the process into a new belief system that I'm doing this for you to solve your problems, right? So every industry is going to be a little bit different. So when I sold door to door, what are most people that open the door used to coming from anybody selling pest control, alarms, solar, landscaping? I mean, I could go over 30 different things. Hi, are you the homeowner here? Hey, how's it going? How are you doing today? That's the pattern. So your brain recognizes patterns. So if that's ever happened to them, which is likely the case, that somebody's knocked on the door to try to sell them something, instantly, if you sound like everybody else, where does the brain go?
To that frame.
Like, oh, salesperson trying to sell me. So the guard's automatically up. Okay. So what I did, and I see a lot of salespeople doing this now, so I don't know pattern still works. But what I did is I didn't want to look like a salesperson. So most salespeople that sell door to door, they'd wear like this license badge here because they thought they needed to look official. I'm like, you might as well just put a stamp on your head that says, I'm a salesperson trying to sell you something, because that's what that means, right? That's a pattern. So I would stick mine in my pocket. Now, if they ever asked, I could just pull out the license. But if I have it here, they already know I'm a salesperson, so their guard's already up coming to the door, So that's one pattern I'm getting rid of. What I did is I went and got you remember the construction vests, like the orange. I got an orange one. I had like a lime green one, I sold more one week, I'd wear the other one. I was like really superstitious. Then I get like a tape measure on the side right there. I'd wear like these old man, like grandpa New Balance shoes, like the old white ones, just looking as basic as possible, cheap Walmart watch, like literally basic, like non-threatening, right? Because a salesperson, if you knock on the door, you got these gold chains on, you look all slick back, instantly, what pattern do they use to? That looks like a salesperson. So their guard's already up. You're literally already triggering their guard. Like, why would you want to do that? And so when I knock on the door, I even had like some leather gloves that I put like on the side. So I look like a construction worker. They literally didn't know if I was telling them that there's a pothole to be careful about. So they always came to the door. A lot of salespeople can't even get them to come to the door. Okay. So where I knock on the door, instead of saying, hey, are you the homeowner here? Hey, how you doing? My name's Jeremy. See, it's over at that point. So I knock on the door and I had like this clipboard, okay? And I had all the contracts in it because I was selling these alarms. And I had like this document on there that had like 5 or 6 questions, like I was taking a survey, okay? Like they didn't know if I was reading their meter. They didn't know if I was a local survey for politics. They had no idea what I was doing. So I'm doing that to trigger curiosity. So they come to the door. So I knock on the door. It's at angles to the side, 6 feet back. There's a whole lot more you got to learn there. I knock on the door. Now, as they came to the door, let me show you. If I'm selling solar roofing, what should I be looking at as they're coming to the door? Probably the what?
Roof. The ceiling?
Yeah, the roof. I'm going to look at the roof. If I'm selling pest control, depending on what part of the country, if I'm in a place where I'm in North Carolina, there's a bunch of ant mounds, I'm probably looking down at the ant mounds, right? Or cobwebs, I'm looking at the cobwebs, or whatever it is. Or if I'm a landscaper, I'm looking at the brushes there, with the thing. So I'm triggering curiosity. So as they come to the door, I'm not sitting here like this. I'm sitting there like writing stuff down, like looking around. I'm acting like I'm almost like curious and confused, right? Confused look, right? And so as they come, the thing is like, oh, you never should act confused. Well, I don't say like, oh, I don't know how the thing works. Like, I'm not talking about your 107 have dementia confused, but confused like you're not quite sure about something, which triggers the human brain to become curious about what the hell you're confused about. Does that make sense? That's all I'm doing right there. So as they come to the door, they'd be like, I'd lean in as they came to the door and I'd take my pen, a little magic wand. My tonality coach taught me this. I'll show you this. And I go, yeah, are you guys you're the property owners here? And I'd lean in like this. And you know what they do all the time? Yeah, we're the property owners. What's going on? All I did right there was a pattern interrupt. It's just a pattern interrupt. I'm just going to say, yeah, are you guys see how I slow down my cadence? Because what are they used to? What pattern are they used to as salespeople?
Did you try the other way though? Or did you just naturally do that?
I did it the very first couple months, hardly made any sales.
Because I get this part, and then when they knock on the door, you couldn't deliver it a little bit quicker.
The thing is, if you go faster, see, here's the biggest reason why you get resistance is because you talk too fast. You talk so fast that you give the prospect no time to internalize what you're saying or asking. So they give you a knee-jerk response. It's like if you sell cars or furniture, like retail, and they come in like, hey, welcome to the store today. How can I help you? Just looking. You're instantly going to get that response because you say it too fast, right? So what if you went like, hey, welcome into the dealership. Are you guys kind of out looking, maybe looking around? Yeah, I'm going to feedback the objection. You've heard that one before. Everybody does that. Yeah, we're just kind of looking. And do you know what you're possibly looking for? Right? I'm just going to cadence out. Now you're like, oh, well, that would never work because
it just never worked. I've never tried it. Yeah. I don't know. Because I would have went like I get the looking at the roof, like, then when they knock on the door and they answer, I'll be like, hey, are you the homeowner here?
Yeah, sure. You're not going to talk like,
But I wouldn't necessarily, I've never tried. Or
I didn't do it like that.
You the homeowner?
You got to work on that. See,
I know. I've never done it.
Yeah. So look, I always say you're an actor or actress always on stage in a play that never ends. Who's your favorite actor?
Well, that's true.
Yeah. Who's your favorite actor? Hollywood. Don't tell me you don't watch TV.
Oh, no, I love movies.
Watch TV.
I would have said Robert De Niro, but I can't stand him anymore.
Okay, well.
I've been thinking, I like Brad Pitt. I like freaking, Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, all those guys are great. Imagine if they were in that conversation, or like Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible. And Tom Cruise talked like this. All right, we got to go down by the van because the CIA is coming. And the CIA, if they come here, we don't know really what we're going to do because the CIA is really smart and it could be a bomb and it could blow everybody up. And then If we blow everybody up, then I won't be able to see my wife anymore, and then I'd be really sad. And they didn't move their facial expressions or their body language, and they just kind of sat here like this and talked about like this in the same tone the entire film, you would turn it off. You would never hear about them. But what do you notice they do? See, in acting school, you're taught to use your facial expressions to trigger certain emotions in the audience so they keep watching their damn show, right? You're taught all that. You're taught how to change your voice fluctuation and a cadence. And maybe sometimes you're talking really quick and then you're going to talk really slow to emphasize a point, right? Like Martin Luther King, I have a dream speech. You ever listen to that? Look at the verbal pacing of what he said, or the verbal pausing. I have a dream that one day all mankind would be equal in the sight of God. Look at all the verbal pauses in there. What if he said, I have a dream that one day all men are going to be equal in the sight of God? You wouldn't have any emotion there because he says it so fast, your brain doesn't pick it up quick enough. But when I verbal pause in between points, that's why President Obama, I'm not into politics. You guys fight it all out. I'm an independent. But President Obama was a great communicator, a lot of it because of his verbal pacing and what he said. And sometimes he'd talk really fast, and then he would slow down to emphasize a point. And that causes your brain to like stay curious and stay engaged. If you just talk in the same tone the entire time, whether it's fast, slow, or anything, the brain loses engagement. It's hard to stay engaged. See what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Just a bunch of boring stuff.
See, that's the part I don't get. Like, see, but that's the part I'm trying to, and I'll try it. That's the thing. So,
well, there's no trying.
But I've always sold with certainty and enthusiasm, and I definitely use tonality.
If your enthusiasm is what you're doing right there, I would agree with it. That's just, I would call that assertiveness. You have certainty in your voice. Like when I say enthusiasm, I'm thinking about like the salesperson, the plaid suit, the greased back hair. Hey, I got a great opportunity for you. And you're like, whoa, what the hell?
Oh, but do those still exist?
They still exist. Yeah. Walk down a mall. So
again, I'm jaded, I guess.
I know. Those people still exist. They're out there. So I guess our enthusiasm and maybe is the same thing. We just talk like this, but it's a natural conversation. It's a skilled conversation. Okay, I'm not just winging it. And here's the thing. I always say there's 4 types of salespeople. Everybody write this down. I think there's 4. These are the same 4 types of people in anything in life. It doesn't matter the profession. Number 1, salespeople. The first type of salesperson you're going to deal with is what I call a winger. Let me pronounce that right. A winger. Somebody who wings everything, right? They show up, they say different things to every prospect. They don't really have a structured process, so they don't know what works, what doesn't work. And they just kind of throw up, right? They talk about the features and benefits and just hope and pray that whatever they're going to say is going to magically work, but they don't know what works and what doesn't work. And when they don't make a lot of sales, who do they blame? The leads. The prospects. Oh, my prospects are broke. They have fear, blah, blah, blah. They never blame their lack of skill level. And where do most of those salespeople go? They get fired eventually. Those are the wingers, right? Then you have where most salespeople are. Those are the dabblers. Okay, I call those the dabblers, right? So a dabbler is somebody who buys a couple sales books every year. They go to a couple free events. Maybe they follow me or you to learn about sales on basic reels on Instagram or YouTube, like free content. And they feel like, hey, if I just stay in long enough, if I get enough reps, eventually I'll be good. That approach takes years, if not decades, if they ever get good. Most salespeople are there, and that's why they're average. They're dabbling in the craft, right? Watching me on IG is just dabbling in the craft because you don't know the context of what's going on before, after, in between, up, down, anything. And that's where most salespeople are. And if they ever get good, it's because they simply play the numbers game. They work 12, 14 hours a day, and eventually they burn out. That's why there's so much attrition, right? Salespeople are like, I want to get into management because they burn out, right? Then you have the third kind. This is the interesting kind. Nobody ever wants to be here. Those are the know-it-allers, right? They have huge egos. A long time ago, they invested in sales training. They got halfway good. Maybe they make a couple $100,000 a year or something. And then they just stop investing because they think they would. They know everything there is about sales, persuasion, influence. They just know everything. And so eventually, because they stopped training, remember, it's train something you did or it's train something you do, right? I love that from you, right? It's a good frame because they stop training, their income gets capped. They never go anywhere. They never get to where they want. And then you have those that I call are committed to mastery, right? They're investing in sales training all the time. They're buying anything they can get their hands on sales persuasion. They're spending like thousands of dollars, like if not more. And, their learning curve is 100x faster because they're speed to lead. I always say the most successful people don't learn from their mistakes. They learn from other people's mistakes. They don't make the same mistakes themselves, right? And that's your top 1%. So think about anybody in life. Who's your favorite athlete?
Athlete?
Yeah, just any sport.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan. Was he a winger, dabbler, know-it-all, committed to mastery?
He was committed to mastery.
Think about who's your favorite business thought leader besides yourself, I know.
Thought leader?
Yeah, thought leader. Just your favorite thought leader. Who is it?
I like Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, okay. Was he a winger, dabbler, know-it-all, or committed to mastery?
Probably the mastery part.
Think about the most famous doctors in the world, famous attorneys, like the best of anything, best in the military, like the Navy SEALs. Winger, dabbler, know-it-all, committed to mastery. See, there's something about that commitment to mastery. It doesn't matter the profession you're in. If you want to be the best in your relationship, winger, dabbler, know-it-all, committed to mastery. It's the same thing in life. Tony Robbins talks about it. He's like, there's people who are stressors and dabblers and those who are committed to mastery. Who you decide you're going to become determines your entire destiny. And unfortunately, it determines a lot of your family's destiny, which is scary. You want to commit to mastery.
Do you believe that people should be in the position to receive commission?
What do you mean by that question?
People ask me all the time, how do you become successful? They're asking me because somehow I became successful in their eyes anyway. And I would say, step one, you got to get in the position to receive commission. What does that mean? You got to sell something. I've never met anybody that's successful that isn't selling something to somebody.
They're selling something all the time. I mean, Elon Musk is a salesperson.
So is Michael Jordan.
Everybody's a salesperson, right? You're always selling your ideas.
Yeah, but I mean legitimately
like commission.
A commission job. I've never seen anybody successful.
Yeah.
That isn't selling something.
It's true. I mean, look at Elon. Let's take Elon Musk for a second. Like, it was unlikely that he was the only person that had the concept of the electrical car, but he was the best at communicating that vision. He was the best at framing that. That's why he got where he's at. Jeffrey Bezos, was he the only person at the concept of the idea of Amazon? Unlikely. He just knew how to communicate that better. He knew how to frame that. It's here's the thing. Here's what I think most salespeople think. They think it's the product or service they sell that's responsible for their results. Nothing could be further than truth most of the time. I'm not giving a straitjacket interpretation here, but in a prospect's mind, whether it's insurance, solar, anything, SaaS, in the prospect's mind that you're talking to, in their mind, it all kind of seems kind of the same. Right? So what separates the salesperson who wins those sales compared to all the ones who don't is how they frame that offer, how they frame that solution to make it seem the best to the prospect. That's what separates it, right? It's like I was talking with Dan Henry the other day, and he gave this really good analogy. I'll give him props on here. And he's on my podcast, and we talked about there's two family pictures. Think about your family picture. Your wife's got the family picture there. You're looking great, with the kids and everything. And she goes out and buys 2 frames to go around that picture. Same picture, 2 pictures. She's going to buy this 2 frames. The first frame looks amazing. It's like gold, whatever favorite color you have. It just looks precise, looks amazing. The second frame has got holes in it, kind of broken a little bit, cobwebs, just kind of looks flat, basic, like it's from Wally World. Which picture are you picking up? The one that was framed better. Same picture, but you chose the one that was framed better. That's what selling is. It's about framing, right? The solution. Because in the prospect's mind, all the solutions kind of look the same. They don't really know what you know, right? If you're selling like an automation tool for AI for doctors to dictate their notes, how does the doctor you're talking to or the hospital CEO really know the differences that you have compared to everybody else saying that they're better than you? They don't. It's how you frame it.
So how do you get the conversation going?
Well,
what are those questions? What are those connection questions?
What's going to be different for every industry?
So I knock on the door, you answer it, and I say, it's just old Brad.
No, you're not going to say that. So let me give you an example. So let's say if it's I'll give you an example because there's going to be tweaks. Let's say Remember, connection questions, I want to take them out of, I want to start taking them out. When I'm saying reframing them, that's a process. Everything I developed in NEPQ is meant to do one or two things, is to prevent objections from happening in their mind. Because what causes a human being to have an objection?
Usually a lack of trust.
Lack of certainty. Yeah, which is from a lack of trust, right? They don't trust you. They're uncertain that you can deliver because you're basically saying like, hey, you have to pay me before what I promised you can happen, right? So they have that fear of change, right? So you have to give them the money before they see over that mountain of what's on the other side of the mountain that you're promising. They have to pay you. So they have that fear of change, okay? So objections are triggered by uncertainty. So how do I make them certain? I need to start taking them out of price or cost-based thinking and results-based thinking. So let me give you an industry. Okay, let's say you're selling for a marketing agency. Just give me an example, okay? You get on Zoom. So I might get on there, and I'm not going to go like, how you doing today? How's it going? Now, if they came on there and asked me,
I call that small talk, right?
It's small talk. And look, there's nothing horrible about it. I would just do it a little bit later because what pattern is your prospect used to from salespeople?
That one's, and I'd say don't do it at all.
Yeah.
You know what? Especially in nowadays.
Yeah.
Like nowadays, I think people are wanting to cut to the chase and get to the point.
Yeah. Yeah. And get to the point where I'm not necessarily giving them a price to the point, but I know what you mean. So I might get on there. Hey, can you hear me? Okay. Okay, good. All right. So looks like you booked on the calendar about, I guess, getting some possible help with maybe branding to really scale the business, right? So if I'm selling for a marketing agency and I'm not really selling leads, I'm not selling branding, I'm selling the results of what the branding or leads do, which would be what? Grow the business, scale the business, right?
Yeah, let's use Lightspeed as an example. I'll get some free training.
So what's the end result of what your platform does?
Makes you more money than you are without it.
Okay, I like that, but let's reframe it where the end result, okay, looks like you booked on the calendar about maybe getting some.
My ad says if you're not making at least $50,000 a month or more.
Yeah. Okay. So it looks like you booked on the calendar about. Now you call it like a learning management system. Is that what they see?
No,
they don't see that.
Well, I call it a training system.
Oh, okay. So it looks like you booked on the calendar about maybe looking at maybe a training system to really help you grow and scale your company, right?
Yeah, or create it looks like you were trying to create courses. You're interested in selling courses online. It
looks like you booked on the calendar about looking at ways to create courses to get your brand out there so you can really grow your company, right?
Yeah.
Right. Nobody's going to say no. See, the end result is you're not selling them a learning management system. You're selling the results of what it does for them, which is to get their name out in the market, get their expertise in the market so they can make more money. At the end of the day, that's what you're selling, more money, more revenue, right?
Yeah, but that's a book call. That's different.
Yeah, that's a book call.
So how about an outbound?
Let's say it's an outbound call. They put in their name, email, phone number. They respond. They don't know who's calling or when. They just know somebody from your company's calling. Okay.
What about just cold call?
There's two. I'll show you the differences. There are two different. So an outbound lead, there's some, they've responded, they've raised their hand and basically said, help. They have some type of problem or issue. Otherwise, they never would have responded, right? Yeah. But that doesn't mean you can just go in and start assuming in 10 seconds because A-types will typically like push back on that. So in the answer, I'm just going to assume it's them. John, hey, it's Jeremy Miner. You responded to the ad. I'm just calling you back. Looks like you booked about maybe looking at ways to get your courses out there to really grow your business, right?
Yes.
So it's the same thing. So notice what I did there in the beginning. Yeah, I'm just saying it's John. I'm not saying, is this John? Because that implies that you don't know them.
But you also didn't say it's just Jeremy.
I didn't necessarily say that. No. In most circumstances, I could say that, but not on an outbound lead. It just depends. Like in certain contexts, the word just is a disarming technique. And others, it actually makes you look timid. It just depends, right? I've seen people like, never would use the word just. Well, it depends on the context. So many people are like, have this straitjacket interpretation. It's like a straitjacket interpretation of the Bible. I can't stand people that like, it says this. Well, there's like 7,500 different churches that don't agree with your interpretation. So I don't know, like maybe we could go back to the translators and see what they thought, from the original like Greek, so there's no straitjacket interpretation. So I know
we'd have to go farther back.
We go further back. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm talking about.
And then originally Sanskrit.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. We can get into that.
Nobody can read that though. So you just got to trust.
You just got to trust.
Have faith.
Yeah. See,
do you have faith?
Faith in what?
God. You believe it? Do you believe there's a creator?
Yeah, I believe there might be more than one creator. I believe for us, there's only one God for sure. What do you believe in?
Well, I don't want to go down that road, but I believe there's a creator.
Leads.
I believe there's a creator.
There's a creator. I think you have to have more faith to believe there's not a creator. I think you literally have to have more faith to believe that, some 3 asteroids hit each other and all of a sudden, I know people who are atheists are going to get upset with me. That's okay. I still love you. And then somehow the things were started in the pond, and then the frog grew into the monkey, and the monkey grew into the man. Whatever.
And then the giraffe.
The giraffes.
And then the rhino or the hippo and the lion and the butterfly. They all came from that little oozy thing.
Reproductive systems of a woman just somehow magically happened. But I think you have to have more faith. But that's just me.
Dude, and get into quantum physics, and you start to realize, like, dude, there's no way this just happened. Yeah. Deep down inside the nucleus of the cells, there's shit going on that is exact.
It's crazy.
It had to be created.
Oh yeah, for sure. I believe it.
Now, we might have been created by an alien.
Elohim means what?
God.
It means gods. Elohim, plural. It's gods. And the God said, "Let there be light." It doesn't actually say God. That's just how they translated it in the Old Testament, because at that point the King James translators believed that in the monotheism or whatever. There was not like other gods, but Elohim is plural. It means, look it up. It means gods. The God said, let's make man in our image. The God said.
Well, there obviously
that's what it's worth. You know what also?
Well, there must have been more gods, because he says himself, the creator, thou shalt have no other gods before me. So who's he talking about?
Well, I think he was talking, you could interpret that to mean he was talking about idols for the people. It just depends. You could interpret.
Define God.
Oh gosh. We're going to outbound leads.
Let's go to outbound leads.
Okay, but we're going to come back to there because I got one more thing for you. Isn't this interesting? God said, multiply and replenish the earth. Replenish means that it was already replenished before. Interesting. Something to think about. Replenish the earth, not plenish the earth. He said, replenish it.
I stopped listening after he said, go forth and multiply. And so I said, yes, sir.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, what does replenish mean? Replenish implies that there was already something before.
Well, there was.
Maybe there's
it was before the flood.
Oh, Adam and Eve supposedly were way before the flood.
The beginning, weren't they?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Is that who he said it to?
That was the first humans, supposedly. He said, multiply and replenish the earth. That's in, what is that? What is that? You know, that would be Genesis 1.
Yeah, it was in the beginning.
Multiply and replenish the earth. Replenish means it's already been plenished. I'll let you guys debate on that. Okay, let's go back down.
You'll get a big debate on that. So let's go back to what's fact. Outbound leads. Because there's a lot of salespeople in the world, their biggest struggle, and you said it right here when you were making more money than other people, you said you'd have more opportunities to do business.
Well, so what determines a prospect? Remember, it all goes back to your brain as a human being recognizes patterns. So I have to interrupt the pattern. That's called a pattern interrupt. I'll give you an example. You ever seen that show? I was just talking with some of my guys this morning before I flew up here. I'm Not Your Guru with Tony Robbins.
I've seen it.
Isn't that a great show?
Yeah.
You remember that clip where the guy stands up? He's like, I'm committing suicide. I think I might commit suicide. Remember the guy? He stands up, the red shoes, and the guy starts talking to him, and he's kind of nervous, and he's talking with Tony, and he's like shaking. Right? What was the first thing that Tony did? Do you remember? He's like, is it because you're fucking red shoes? Excuse my language. My mom's going to wash my mouth with soap. Is it because you're fucking red shoes? Why do you think he did that?
Pattern interrupt.
He's interrupting his pattern, because what Tony teaches, which is really emotional connection in sales, is that human being, a patient, was in a state of like, I can't do this. My life is not worthy. I'm going to kill myself. So what he's doing is he's interrupting his pattern. And now he's going to deframe him out of that belief system and start to reframe them into a new belief system of, why the hell would you ever want to kill yourself? Doesn't make any sense. But the way he had to do was a pattern up first, because if he didn't do that, it would be harder to deframe him out of that belief system. That's why he used that. See, that's why I love watching him, because he's brilliant. He can take anything in an instant because he understands the brain, psychology. He's like, it's because you're fucking red shoes. And the guy looked down, and then he started laughing, and his whole state started changing. And then he became open, and he was playful. And by the end of it, it was almost like he had a completely different belief system about his life. That's a pattern interrupt. Kind of crazy, huh? So what I want to do when I call the lead is I want to interrupt the pattern, right? So what are they used to? Hi, is John there? Hey, John, it's Brad Lee with XYZ Company calling you back. How are you doing? That's a pattern the prospect's brain already recognizes. So even if they responded, the problem is in your survival part of your brain, which is a lot of
amygdala.
They call it the
lizard brain,
the lizard brain, right? Reptilian part of the brain. That's your fight or flight. You're trying to survive. So your brain recognizes those patterns, and because we've been sold to as a society and marketed to all the time, right? What's the first thing? What's one of the first things you do when you wake up in the morning? Besides go to the bathroom, what's one of the first things you do?
When I wake up?
Well, when you wake up, you go to the bathroom. What's one of the first things you do? You pick up your phone and you do what?
Check my email.
You probably get on social media.
And I don't. But
okay, I know. Well, I have a good example. Most people
not me, only because, dude, to me that's a danger.
Okay, but most people would.
Most people would.
They get on social media. What do they see? Ads trying to sell them something. So it starts. They're already being sold to, right? They walk into the kitchen. They turn on the TV to watch something before they go to work. What do they see? Commercials trying to sell them something.
Yes, they got bombarded from day one.
They turn on the radio. What do they hear? Ads, radio ads trying to sell them something. They drive down the road where they see signs, billboards trying to sell them something. So you're constantly being sold to all the time. And because of that, our brains have built up defensive systems. And so anytime we feel like, if we hear a pattern we're used to from a salesperson that we're being sold to, our brains go into that fight or flight mode. So notice when I said, yeah, it's James Miller. You asked us to call you back. That's a familiar tone.
But what if they hadn't, though?
But they put in their name, email, phone number. It doesn't matter. See, have you ever got a call from somebody like, hey, it's Amy Smith. How are you, Brad? What would you say?
I'd be like, do I know you?
No, you wouldn't, dude. You'd be like, I'm doing good. How are you? That's just the way the brain works. Hey, Brad, it's Amy Smith. How are you doing?
That's enthusiastic.
But that's a familiar tone, right? I sound like I already know you. Therefore, it's interrupting your brain. It's a pattern interrupt, and your brain starts searching. Who's Amy Smith? How do I know Amy Smith? Did I have her on my show? Is she one of my people? Like all she did there with the familiar tone is buy her more time. That's what I'm talking about, pattern interrupt, because it forces your brain.
So is that what you teach them to do?
On an outbound call and not on an inbound, because that'd be weird, but an outbound call where they might not remember you, or an age lead or cold call. Yeah, it's James Miller. You asked us to call you back. See, that's an outbound lead, not a cold call. You wouldn't say you asked us to call you back on a cold call, but if they responded to an ad and it's not a booked appointment, they just know somebody's going to call them. They just don't know when or where. That's an outbound lead in our book.
So if I reach you,
asked us to call you back. You saw the ad this morning about maybe getting more coaching for creating your own courses so you can really scale your business, right? Right. I'm starting to frame them into results-based thinking for price requests. That's the first thing. Now, hey, when you saw the ad with Brad, what was it that he was kind of covering that caused you to maybe want to look into this further? So I'm pacing that out rather than saying,
I want to make 50 grand a month.
What causes your interest in this? Like it's just too corny. Now, if you're selling for like somebody like you that has like a brand and an influencer, I might say, so how long have you actually been following Brad for? Now, why would I want to know that?
See how
indoctrinated they are.
Yeah.
If you're an influencer, right? In other industries, it would make sense, right? But if they're like, I've been following him on IG for 6 months, that's going to tell me that they know a lot about you. They're kind of bought in. If he's like, I don't even know who that is. I just saw the ad this morning. That tells me I'm going to have to do more work, right? See how I'm finding out details by asking questions that they're going to answer that just tells me things. And then I might say, and where do you follow him at? Like what platform? Now, if he or she said, I follow him on IG, what would that tell me? That they're just watching like short 30 to 60 second clips. Now, let's say you had a big YouTube following. I don't know if you do, but I'm sure you do. Then there's a more long form. So like, I've been following him on YouTube. That tells me he or she knows more. So I'm just finding out what they know. So what was it that he's kind of been going over, on IG that caused you to feel like, hey, maybe I should look into this possibly? See, I'm like verbal pacing that out. Oh, I like Brad because of this, because of that. All right. Yeah. And the first part of this call, it's pretty basic. Now I'm going to go into framing. Okay. I already did some frames there, but we don't have time to go through this. Yeah. The first part of this call, it's pretty basic. It's really more for us to find out kind of, what you're doing now for your what? You got to tell me.
Courses.
What you're doing now for your courses and really growing your brand and kind of the results you're getting from that compared to maybe where you're wanting those to be, to kind of see what that gap looks like. And then towards the end of the call, if you feel like, hey, this might be what you're looking for, we can talk about possible next steps. Would that help you? Now, I did a lot there.
Disarmed.
Yeah, I'm disarming it. Remember connection questions. My goal is to disarm the prospect, to get them to let their guard down, start taking them from price or cost-based thinking and reframe them to results-based thinking. So notice how I downplay. Yeah, the first part of this call is pretty basic. Now, why would I downplay it? Why wouldn't I be like, this is going to be an amazing call? What is a prospect used to? What pattern?
Oh, well, I like that first opening.
Yeah, I'm downplaying it because it gets them more comfortable, letting their guard down. Okay.
Yeah, calm down. Yeah, there's going to be.
Yeah, it's pretty basic. Because look, if their guard's up.
Did you say the first part of the call?
Yeah, if I'm in a one call close, I'm going to say the first part of this call. Now, let's say if I'm selling luxury pools and the next step's the proposal, then the next step's go in the design room, I might say this first call is pretty basic. Now, let's say if I'm selling cybersecurity to Wells Fargo and it's a 12-month sales cycle, I'm saying these first few calls, they're pretty basic. I'm just tweaking it based off.
Yeah, I like the downplay.
Yeah, I'm down.
But again, I don't hear confusion yet.
Well, let me show you where to use a confused tone. Okay, I'll show you in a minute. Okay. So then I'm getting them at a price or cost. I'm like, yeah, the first part's called, it's pretty basic. It's really more for us to find out. And then I'm doing this. Now, even if I'm on the phone and they can't see this, I'm still moving my body because your body language, your facial expression affects your tonality, right? Your facial expressions are the remote control to your tone. Try having a curious tone with a straight face. Really hard to do. Okay. So anyway, so going back, first part is called, it's pretty basic. It's really more for us to find out kind of what you're doing now to, like, let's say we're talking about growing their business, to grow your business and the results you're getting from that. Stop. Now, why wouldn't I say the results you're getting from that here? Why would I do it here?
Because you're not getting very many.
Yeah. Because subliminally, especially if they see me, I'm already getting them in their mind. I'm already putting them into like, your results are not that good.
Clearly, or you wouldn't be on the call with me.
The results you're getting from that compared to maybe where you're wanting those to be. See how I did that? Now I just created a big gap visually. Even if I'm on the phone, I'm still going to do that, affects my tone. Just to kind of see what that gap looks like. See how I'm already building a gap subconsciously in their brain. And then towards the end of the call, if you feel like, hey, this might be what you're looking for, we can talk about possible next steps. Would that help? Now, why would I say might be what you're looking for?
Take away.
Well, might be what you're looking for. We can talk about possible next steps. So many salespeople like start assuming a sale too early. I believe in assuming the sale, but I've got to build trust and credibility. And how much trust and credibility do I have in the first 45 seconds of a call or 2 minutes of a call? Hardly any. So if you assume too early, especially with an A-type, they'll be like, well, I didn't necessarily say I was ready to buy anything today. And all he did was just trigger sales resistance where now the guard's up and now I got to get it back down. So if I just neutralize it at the beginning and say, at the end of the call, we can talk, if you feel like, hey, if you feel this might be what you're looking for, we can talk about possible next steps. Nobody's ever say, no, we cannot talk about possible next steps because I neutralized that. So I'm keeping their guard down. And then I might come in and say, so what were you hoping could happen by possibly working with Brad? What were you hoping could happen? See how now I'm getting them to qualify to me, because who has the problems, the prospect or you, the salesperson? The prospect. You're the one that can solve it. So why would you qualify to the prospect? So I'm now going to shift now. So what were you hoping could happen by possibly working with Brad? See, I'm still neutralized. Possibly working with Brad. Not what are you hoping could happen by working with Brad? Well, I didn't say I'm going to work with Brad. I'm still looking around. So I'm neutralizing. So for your industry, those might be my first connection questions. And then I'd go into situation questions. There you go. You happy?
I am. There you go. Now, I'll tell you, because I'm close to that, the way I want my guys to do it is, first of all, we're talking about inbound now.
Okay.
Because, hey, number one, Jeremy, just wanted to thank you for showing up. Oh. It's hard as hell to get people on these calls nowadays. Come on, big dog. No, I'm joking. I don't say that. But
don't say that. Hard as hell to get people on the calls?
I don't.
Yeah.
But it is. But I was joking. I don't say that. Ultimately, I don't tell them exactly what to say. I tell them what to think, which is number one, thank them for jumping on the call because they're taking their time. So be, nice about that.
Tell me how you thank them. Tell me what your guys say.
What do you mean?
Do they say like, hey, thank you for being on the call?
I don't know because I don't listen. That's what I should do.
Most salespeople do. They're like, hey, thanks for taking your time to be on this call. I would say, why would you thank them for being on the call? Because who has the problems? You or the prospect? They
do.
If you're saying, thank you for taking the time to be on the call, all that subconsciously is communicating is that you value their time more than they should value your time.
Yeah,
so that lowers your status.
That might be a problem we have.
It could be a problem
because again, I'm just a polite guy, and I've always been taught to thank people for their time. But
yeah, I get it.
The next step is basically, so let me just ask you a few questions, so I understand if we can help you or not.
I like that, man.
Yeah, because I really need to know.
So disarming.
Yeah. So
that's
real
a connection.
Real quick, do you have a course? Or are you looking to make one?
Okay. Yeah, I could say that. That's a close. It's kind of a either or.
Well, I'm trying to figure out where you are. Well, like, do you have a course currently, or are you just trying to? I already know you ain't making much money, or you wouldn't be on the call with me, because the ad says if you ain't making 50 grand or more, book a call with my team and we'll show you how to do it.
Yeah.
So hey, thanks for showing up. So let me ask a few questions and make sure that we're we can help you.
Yeah.
Do you have a course, or are you looking to make one?
Now, do you have a course right now, or are you like trying to figure out how to make one? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so then they say, I either have one or I don't.
If they say I have one, you're going to ask different questions compared to like, I don't have one.
Or what do you teach?
Different situation.
What are you teaching?
Yeah.
And then ultimately, you sell to businesses or individuals? So this all matters.
See, I agree. Those are more situation questions. I'm going to ask those connection questions first, because a lot of times they're already going to tell me some of that in the connection questions. Because when I say, if you're selling for an influencer like you are, or like a company, you're kind of I don't want to call you an influencer, because I think that has a weird word. When people come like, how does it feel to be an influencer? I'm like, I'm a sales training company. I'm not an influencer. Like, what? I almost get offended, right? But you have a big social media following, right? So, and you have a brand and you have a real business, right? So, going back, I lost my train. I had a Joe Biden moment. Tell me what you're saying again. No offense, Joe Biden.
Like you're worried about offending people, aren't you?
No, I did. No, I'm just
Joe Biden shit his pants, bro.
Well, who knows?
He was the worst president in the history of the United States.
I'm not.
And not only that, I'll bet you they're about to uncover all the crime, and I'll bet you anything he's going to get in trouble for all the shit he was pulling.
I'm sure the government has a lot of. I hope so. We're all going to be.
I was offended.
We're all going to be 82 years old one day as well. But if there's corruption,
he's corrupt, dude. The whole family was corrupt. There was cocaine in the White House. They're like, oh, where did I get here? And then his son's like, I know. Talking about that.
Wasn't that funny? Nobody knows. No, I know.
So the last question that we ask in this slide is, so, and this is where I do agree with the confusion. So what's stopping you?
We asked that more in solution awareness questions. So, hey, before we got on here, were you out there looking for like ways to like really grow your brand, so you really scale? Or what were you doing about like getting your course out there where people can actually see your message?
Well, I would assume
if you said I didn't do anything, I'm like, oh, what's held you back? Confused down.
Yeah, I want to know from these people what has stopped you, and the method of this is so you will tell me what your problems are. Because if I tell you your problems, you could get offended, and then you could think I know everything. Well, so
I know you're biased. You're a salesperson.
I know.
So I want them to tell you.
I want you to tell me what your problems are, and then coincidentally, whatever you're going to tell me is more than likely the solution we have. Because you know what most people's problems are when they're not making 50 grand a month or more?
Yeah,
they don't know how to market it. They probably don't have a big team. They don't have sales teams. They don't have analytics. They're just not. They're not doing it right.
Sure. That's part of it. But what's the core? I agree with all that. That's part of it. But the core that causes that is two types of personalities. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
A superior way of thinking and an inferior way of thinking mindset. So 80% of probably the leads you talk to, your guys talk to, 85% love Brad, think that your thing is really great, but they don't feel like they can do it. They have an inferior mindset. So unless we help them overcome that inferior mindset, it's going to be hard for them to want to change and purchase what you're offering. 20%, 15 to 20% have a superior mindset, right? They believe they can do it. They like Brad. They like the tips. They believe they can do it, but they could believe they can do it without you. So you have to see doubt and get them to feel like maybe I can't do it without Brad. Whole different ball game. So you have to
figure out. If they could, wouldn't they already be doing it?
Well, obviously, but they still have a superior mindset. So they're kind of looking at what you got, but they still feel like maybe I can do it without them.
Yeah.
Right. That's what
how much would you charge me?
What do you mean?
I'm going to pay you myself just to walk through a day. Maybe I'll come to Scottsdale.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk through the 8 slide deck. Just give me a few tweaks.
It's kind of like driving in a car to a shop and be like, hey, fix my car. How much is it going to cost me?
No, we're not. We don't need big.
What's wrong?
We don't need big fixing.
Okay.
We need slight tweak
some like little belts.
Like I like what you said. I like what you said in the beginning where you were, the way you said those. Like, again, I like that.
Oh, you want to go back to the confused? We'll talk later. You have one of your guys talk with my guys. Okay, so confused tone.
No, I don't do that. I'll talk to you.
Oh, you want to talk to me? Why are you putting so much sales pressure on me all the time?
Well, because again, I don't talk to your people.
I said one of your people talked to one of my people.
No, it's because I want to know first.
You're putting so much sales pressure on me.
I want to know first. It would be me to you. I want to know first how you would tweak it. I'll even pay you. I mean, I'm not saying, dude, hey, Jeremy, let me take a day of yours.
Free consulting.
But no, I want a few hours.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you what we say. I'm going to write down the word track and I'm going to try it because again, I'm one of those dudes that'll try it. And if all of a sudden it's like, son of a bitch, that shit freaking worked. Well, now you got Brad Lee, who is a influencer, also promoting you more. Well, you can't lose.
We have some of the clients. We have Exxon Mobil. We have
no one gives a
shit. I just saw a new B2B client, NBC Golf Channel. You got to sell advertising space, NBC Golf Channel. If you're
we got the PGA. That doesn't close people for me.
I'm trying to get up to your level. I know.
LPGA too. We have, but dude, I tell people that, hey, we got Jeremy Miner on Lightspeed. Hey, we got Tony Robbins on Lightspeed. And they're like, I don't give a fuck.
Inferior complex. They don't believe. They're like, oh, Tony Robbins. He's Tony Robbins. No wonder. I mean, he's Grant Cardone. No, that's not me. That's an inferior complex. You have to help them overcome that fear. That's why it doesn't matter to them.
Dude, what does your day look like if like when you wake up every day? You just got calendars stacked with freaking Zooms and coaching your people?
We don't do I don't do one-on-one coaching. I mean, we've got sales trainers. I mean, we have consumer sales training, for consumers, like individual salespeople. There might be a group session I'm doing that day for 3,000 people that are on there. Every Tuesday, I do one for about 1,000 clients. They're in our mid-level program, 3.0 Pro. Mondays, I do 2 1-hour sessions for advanced earner circle clients. Those are individuals, not company owners. And there's usually, we only let, I think, 60 to 70 people a month into that. That's about a 20 to 30 grand a year program. That's really advanced because that's me training them in groups how to tie in NEPQ to their industry. So you have thousands of industry specific scripts, all that stuff. But we have to teach it because if I handed you a script right now for your industry, here you go, it wouldn't work that well because your guys wouldn't know why they're even asking the questions in the first place. They wouldn't know what to do if they ask a question, the prospect doesn't really open up. What are you going to do? Or they just pressure on the script?
Yeah, or they just sound confused.
Well, okay, let's go back to the confused tone. So if a prospect, there's different ways I could use a confused tone for different contexts. But let's say a prospect says, oh, yeah, it's just been really stressful trying to figure out this whole, creating my course. Stressful? See what I just did? Stressful? Oh, gosh, you have no idea. So what did I just do there? My confused facial expression and my tone to their subconscious instantly says, oh, he didn't understand what I meant by stressful. I need to what? Explain that better. And that's where the emotions start coming out. Okay. See what I just did. But if I'm like, oh, how do you mean by stressful? Curious tone ain't going to do that. But if I'm like, oh, how do you mean by stressful? So I'm confused / concerned for you. Right? So your tone is how they interpret your intention behind everything you say and ask. So let's say I'll give you an example of where to use a concern tone. You're not going to use a concern tone by saying, for your industry, so do you have a coach? Do you have a coaching course now, or do you actually? You're not going to use a weird tone. That's going to be more of a curious tone. Walk me through. Do you have a coaching course now, or are you trying to actually build one? That's a curious tone, right? So it's certain context. But let's say they're not moving forward. You can't, they're not telling you their real concern. I might lean in at the end and say, can I ask you something? Notice how my tone shifts down, right? To that concern tone, that soft tone. They're like, yeah, sure. What's going on? What's really holding you back? See how that tone shifts? You ever seen that? We've seen Wolf on Wall.
It's almost kind of gay.
It's not gay. It's gay because I'm telling you what I'm doing. But if you're emotionally involved,
I'm just messing with you.
If you're emotionally involved, so if you're emotionally involved in the conversation, and if I built a gap and I've helped you relive your pain and have a fear of future pain, you are emotionally involved in this. And if I lean in and say, what's really holding you back? And I lower that tone, because your tone, like I said, it's how they interpret does this person actually care for me? Remember, it's the emotional connection. Now, I'm going to do that without buying into their story. Because if I buy into their story, I offer them no value. But that concerned tone, a tone that shows empathy, does that lower trust that they have with you? Or do you feel like that might raise trust that they have?
I would raise it.
Yeah, because they feel like you're concerned for the consequences. And when they feel like you're concerned for the consequences of what happens if they don't change, you're more than likely going to get them to open up and tell you what's really, it's just a big decision, Jeremy. I just don't know. How do you mean by a big decision? What's going on? Talk to me. I'm just having a normal conversation, but it's the emotional connection.
Well, I just got to check with my wife,
It's a concern tone. Well, we could talk about that and the necessity, right? So we were talking about that the other day. So what would be like if in your industry, if they're a coach, right? So you mainly sell like coaches, creating courses. I know you have other clients in other places, but let's say they're a coach with your space. What would creating that course where they can make more money for their business, would that be a necessity maybe? Because what if the prospect says to your rep, like, that sounds really good, but I just need to talk to my spouse because we have a really good relationship and we just have to talk about our financial commitments. We have a really good, I value my relationship.
Don't do anything without her.
I value my relationship. Yeah. Can I ask you something? And then I'm going to repeat back the problem they have. Does your spouse want you to, like, let's say they're making $5,000 a month and he wants to make 50 with what does your spouse want you to stay at $5,000 a month? Well, no, she doesn't want me to stay at $5,000 a month. I mean, does she want you to like get this coaching business out there in the world where people hear your message and you get to $50,000 a month? Now I'm repeating back the end result that he was. He's not going to say no. He's going to be like, yeah, she really does. Because it's almost like it's a necessity. So like do you have to call your wife? So let's say it's the winter. It's winter right now. It's early March. Okay. Forget about Vegas. We're in Minnesota. I'm talking to a prospect in Minnesota. It's freaking cold there. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, do you have to ask your wife permission? Like, let's say the heater goes out. You're in Minnesota. It's 10 degrees below zero. Do you have to call your wife to get permission to get the heater fixed? Well, no, of course not. You don't have to ask her because the heater's a what? It's a necessity. So what's the number one thing that's going to determine if your business grows to help you make more money? What's the number one thing? Creating what? That course, right? Because if you don't create the course, how are you going to make more money?
Well, I'm going to create the course. I just don't know if I'm going to do it with you.
Well, maybe you can do it with somebody else, but that's typically why people come to us from your space. So what's the number one thing that's going to determine your results in creating that course is being trained by someone who's already what? Mastered how to do that, right? So would you say making money would be considered a necessity?
Well, certainly.
See how I just put him in that frame. What frame did I had to do the analogy first of the heater is a necessity, right? You're going to freeze to death. You don't have to call your wife for that. Now he just said money's a necessity. So then I can come back. I've got him in that frame that money's a necessity as well. And then I might say, so why do you feel like you would need to ask your wife permission about money? Because what's the number one reason why couples get divorces?
Money.
Yeah. Lack of money. So how are you going to change that if we don't help you build this course and get the message out in the world? So I'm just asking questions.
No, those are good. Those are good. So let me ask you a question.
I don't do that in the first 2 minutes. This is at the end. I've already got the emotional connection. They're reliving their pain. They're emotionally tied in, right? There's a lot of stuff you have to do to get to that point. That won't work if you don't do anything before that.
Where can people go get the touch of Jeremy, meaning like they're not spending 20 G's, and then where can people, obviously people go the same place if they're.
My team gave me a number to give everybody.
What's the number?
We're going to give them a free book. It's called it's the updated. I just updated it a while ago. NEPQ Black Book of Questions. I doubled the content in it, made it a lot more industry specific. So they told me to have everybody text them at this number, 480-637-2944. So 480-637-2944 and just say Black Book, or you can say Bradley, and my team will send you a free copy of the NEPQ Black Book of Questions. It's like 110 pages. It's a good starter, right? You don't want to be a dabbler because books aren't going to like master persuasion, but it's a good start for sure. Let's have them start there.
Yeah, it'll get It'll get them started because I know what people are thinking. They're probably thinking like me. A lot of my audience thinks like me.
Yeah.
And a lot of them don't too. But I'm thinking
what do you think like?
Well, I would be thinking, I want to learn more about this Jeremy Minor cat.
Have him get the book.
7th level, folks.
Have him get the book.
And again, I mean, at the end of the day, if you guys want the book, you go to 480-637-2944. For the people watching live, man, you can get it. This thing's probably not going to drop for a couple weeks, so you guys will get it before anyone gets it. 480.
I gotta do one thing. Can I just go savage?
Yeah, go.
I never do this. I'm always like, stay classy, San Diego. You know what I mean? Because people always ask me, like on podcasts, like, what do you think about Grant Cardone? What do you think about Jordan Buffett? What do you think about Andy? You know, I know you work with Andy. I don't know those guys. I'm never going to say any shit on anybody because I don't know them. I'm sure they're amazing human beings. That's why they've had success as well. I might say, you know, Grant's an amazing marketer, like crazy. You know, Jordan's got the movie, like great guy. I like the looping, some of the tonality techniques. Andy, I don't know him. Great motivation guy. But when somebody comes on here and says that our program's not that good, that was a client and then later started his own sales training company, my team's got to have me respond because the unfortunate thing is that there's a bunch of receipts. And when people leave testimonials, Jeremy Minor, I made 6,900 in commissions in 24 hours using the bare bones of NEPQ since joining Inner Circle. Thank you. Oh, just barely joined $7,000 in 24 hours. Then this one, on pace to hit 100,000 this year. It ain't luck, it's NEPQ. This is the best training program I've ever joined since joining Inner Circle. Look at this, 200,000 in sales in the week in 5 days, 91% close rate. We're going for a 1 million. Thanks, Uncle Jay, Jeremy Minor. This is amazing. Here's another. Ain't luck when you do it the second time. I sell for 2 different offers, 14K offer, 9K offer. There's a whole bunch of shit here. Thank you, Jeremy Minor. So I could keep going on and on. So look,
who was that?
Well, he's the guy you had on here. My team told me about this.
The old Josh Lyons.
And that's the thing. This guy used to be a client and has all these testimonials. I mean, they're right here.
What did he say on the podcast?
I didn't watch it. Somebody said he was talking shit that he said, oh, the NEPQ is just average. And I'm like, just average? Well, when you're a client, suddenly, I don't know, like quadrupled your sales. And then 2 years later, you start your own sales training company. Yeah, NEPQ sucks. So my thing's better.
I mean, he probably just chose the acronym.
Gosh.
I remember he said something about,
be cool about that.
He said scriptless selling.
Well, it's like saying a Hollywood actor or actress doesn't have a script. Everybody has a script, but does it sound scripted? No, because you have to have a framework. You don't just sit there and read from a script. I mean, who would do that? But
can you guys send me those receipts, as you called them?
Yeah, my team sent them. They said there's like 10 of them. They just sent me 6.
Yeah, we'll post them, guys. For the audio listeners, you got to go to YouTube. This video will be posted. You can see the receipts.
I'm sure this guy's a great guy, but he used to be a client. And so when you have testimonials like that, you can't just go and talk shit. It's just not. I would never talk shit about anybody, even if I didn't think the thing was good, let alone give all these testimonials and then start my own thing and talk shit. That's weird.
Well, you can't do that, especially.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Josh,
those receipts.
Josh, we're going to have you come back in the studio with Jeremy.
Oh, I would love to talk to that client for sure. That would be crazy.
I want to get a bunch of...
You got to be classy. You got to be classy, you know?
You should be classy. I agree. But unlike a lot of people, I always say, because again, people know I have my own way of doing shit. But again, listen to you. I'm not disagreeing with anything you've said. However, when I hear people claim what you say, I disagree. Which is, he wants you to be confused. Like what?
No,
like I've never been
confused, stoned. Like,
yeah, but the way you explain it,
did that actually happen?
The way you explain it makes a lot more sense. Yeah. I like the emotional connection questions. We didn't get to the situation, which is why I'm telling them go get the NEPQ Black Book. It's free, folks.
In every industry, there's going to be different connection questions. They're just tweaks, but the framework is the same. You have to have a framework to follow, but you never want to sound scripted. You're not going to sit there and read a script, because what you have to do is have to understand the psychology behind each phase of the conversation. And when the prospect gives you different answers, you have to know how to tweak your next questions based off what they just told you. Otherwise, you will sound scripted. It's not going to sound natural for sure.
Yeah, and based on what I've heard, though,
Yeah.
I've agreed. That's why I want to learn more. I'm going to put my name in. Just tell your team, don't call Brad Lee.
We are the supposedly the largest business to consumer sales training company in the world now, based on annual revenues.
Well, now I'm trying to get you guys business to business.
We're fourth largest in B2B. We're actually pretty big in B2B.
Well,
We probably don't. We have it on a different platform.
well, that's the problem. So.
Please, Father Brad, forgive me.
Yeah, but that's where you're dropping the ball. That's where you're.
I have sinned, Brad. I know. We're
Dropping the
arms. I know. What are we gonna do? We'll talk.
Hey, Jeremy, is that where you're dropping the ball?
What's going on there? What would
Folks,
cause you to do that?
Appreciate you watching live. You can go follow this dude at Jeremy Lee Minor. The Lee I was thinking Jerry Lee. Jerry, you don't want to be that guy. Jeremy Lee Minor, 7th level. You could Google him. He has a lot of free content. If you guys kind of followed what he's saying, like what he's saying, go get his shit. Yeah, and Josh,
don't be a dabbler.
Quit talking shit. Sounds like he's got receipts. We're going to have to get Josh back on here.
Nobody should talk shit. Just everybody get along, man. Everybody can learn from each other, 100%.
And you already got deals coming in according to the comments. Appreciate you coming up.
Well, you know.
Dude, you're welcome anytime.
Well, is that what you say to every
Next time, no. Next time, let's schedule a couple of hours.
We should. I wanted to get into like the replenish the earth and Elohim and all this crazy biblical stuff.
Like, come back up.
Yeah. Let's
I mean, I would stay right now, except for
a haircut.
I've got a haircut to get.
Shaggy there. It is good in trouble. Hey, hit the 2 parts. People make fun of the 2 parts. It's a great pattern interrupt on content. Yeah, I did it on purpose so they'd make fun of it. The 2 parts.
Your hair used to be redder, didn't it?
No, it definitely was not red.
I thought you had like a real red
hair, sir.
2-parter.
What?
I thought you were like
his clients. Well, what's going on? Freaking! I mean,
it doesn't sound like you're my there at all. You're fucking.
Kajabi knows I have blonde hair, Brad. What's going on,
dude? That's because they're trying to give you a hand Kajabi. All right, folks, you've seen it. Jeremy Minor, go follow him. Until next time, keep it real.